You beautiful man. What's going on this Monday morning?
I am doing well, T-Bob. How are you?
I'm doing very well. We've been harassing you lately, hitting you up a lot. You've been doing boots on the ground reporting. You've been hanging out with Zion. A lot of Zion this weekend, whether it was the press conference, the dedication on Saturday. What stood out to you that maybe you don't think is getting as much kind of run right now as it should out of Zion's first big weekend in NOLA?
Let me say this first, just for clarification. Hanging out with Zion is a little bit of a stretch.
Okay,
I'd like to
okay.
think, I'd like to think that we were hanging out and like toasting beignets and watching powdered sugar pop everywhere in the air too. But I am like in the media scrum of like 50 people interviewing him. So hanging out with him means like media hanging out with him. But here's what I take away from all this is that it's such a cliche, and I'm sure people used it about you too. Because I remember, when you signed with LSU, and then you got there, you were always such a great interview. The words "mature beyond his years," or "he just seems so polished for a teenager." Those are the things that I have taken away from him. I went to New York last week for the draft, and it was a zoo. I was there on Wednesday for the media day, Thursday for the draft, Friday back here for his press conference. On Saturday, obviously, they had a park dedication here. And he just seems to kind of get it, that he's not even 19 years old yet.
Crazy.
And in the way he handles himself with the media, what he says. Look, I asked him a question. I just said, everybody keeps telling us that you are a mature kid, wise beyond your years, very polished. Are you okay when people say that? And I thought his answer was funny. He laughs and he goes, I'm not going to say that about myself.
Yeah.
But if other people want to say it about me, it just shows that maybe I'm handling the situation the right way and I'm doing things the right way, and that's kind of how I was raised to do things and handle things. So I think that that's the thing that has struck me the most is that he's not. He just seems like a man, not a boy. And physically, we know he's a man, but sometimes you forget that he's just 18 years old because being around him, he's answered these questions like a professional athlete, and he technically is a 3-day pro right now.
Yeah, and look, and a lot of that probably comes just like in this modern age. Like he's been famous for so long now that he's probably is just a bit more used to it than we think. I mean, when you look at he got famous in high school just for his absurd highlights, but still to be able to conduct himself the manner that he has. I'm with you, Fletch. I've become away very impressed. And that answer, we actually played that answer you're talking about in headlines because I thought it was just so astoundingly kind of wise sounding. Before we get back to Zion, I want to ask you about somebody else who's been with Zion step by step along the way. Now he's actually probably hanging out with Zion, and that is head coach Alvin Gentry. Am I crazy, or is there a little extra pep in Alvin Gentry's step right now?
Alvin Gentry went from 64 to 44 with the selection of Zion Williamson. He's like Benjamin Button. Benjamin Button. Zion has actually been the magic elixir which has helped him age backwards. And so yes, you are absolutely correct. Alvin Gentry has been rejuvenated through all this. And look, here's the thing. It's amazing where we've come in just 2 months. Alvin Gentry, you could make an argument, should have been fired with Dell Demps. That it's been an up and down tenure for him here in New Orleans. It certainly isn't all his fault, but injuries and regime changes are part of it. But look, David Griffin and he had a previous relationship. They were together in Phoenix. David Griffin likes the fact that he's a player's coach and he's a very engaging person. That's the one thing I'll say about Alvin Gentry. You will never meet anybody that is a bridge builder like him. Think about this. DeMarcus Cousins has 5 coaches in Sacramento. He's a coach killer. He's a tough guy to be around. He loves Alvin Gentry. Anthony Davis loves Alvin Gentry. Young players, veteran players, players from all walks of life love Alvin Gentry. He is truly one of these people that is a bridge builder and a player's coach. And I think that David Griffin liked that about him and feels like, look, I'm going to empower this guy to play to his strengths. And then they win the lottery. And so it's a pretty good situation. Look, he's going to have to win games at some point. But right now, Alvin Gentry is a happy camper because he survived a really difficult situation and didn't just survive it, but is now probably
He's thrived.
Situation. Right, that's me. He's thrived from a situation 2 months ago. I thought it was his last press conference as a head coach in the NBA, and now he's going to get to coach this generational talent. And so it's really a remarkable, unprecedented turnaround of a situation that he's in.
I mean, how many coaches lose 35 games the last 3 out of 4 years and then get extended and get the number one overall pick and get new leadership? So if you're Alvin Gentry, absolutely you should be on cloud nine. How great was the "That's a Hall, folks" line?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Look, he's always given us great lines. Like when he's finished, if he really wants to work in TV, he's going to have a job on day one at some national media outlet covering the NBA because he's good. He just gets it. Look, he's a coaching lifer, but he would be great in the broadcasting booth. And I don't know how long he's been sitting on that line, but obviously, it's one of those things. Like, comedy is all about timing, and sometimes the joke misses the mark. Alvin Gentry, for showing patience and in playing that card when he did, I mean, the timing of it was just impeccable.
Yeah. Look, a more discerning comedic nature. They're paying dividends for Alvin Gentry. We're talking to Fletcher Mackel at Fletcher WDSU. And now you mentioned the need to win. And that's where it gets a bit weird. Because right now where the Pelicans sit, you got an average age of 23, median age of 22. You have $30 million in cap space, so there's some more moves yet to be made. But like with a team this young, like what are the realistic expectations, do you think, for year number one from a wins perspective? I think Vegas has him about 31 wins right now.
Yeah, and look, let me say this, and that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, because here's the thing, is that LeBron James was one of the most freakish, athletically gifted, mature people to enter the NBA at 18 years old. His first 2 years, the Cavs didn't go to the playoffs. It wasn't until the third year that LeBron James' team went to the playoffs. So this isn't football. In football, all 32 NFL teams, case in point, the Saints after Katrina. Katrina, they were 3-13. Post Katrina with Reggie and Drew and Sean Payton, they went 13-3 or 10-6 and made it to the NFC Championship game. But teams can go from really bad to really good in the blink of an eye. That's not how it works in the NBA. So teams shouldn't expect them challenging the Warriors with a nucleus that's about 20 years old this year. To me, if they could get into the playoffs next year, even as an 8 seed, that is a monumental achievement.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this. The Dallas Mavericks have Luka Doncic, who's going to be the Rookie of the Year, the most accomplished teenager maybe to come into the NBA since LeBron. He was the EuroLeague MVP. He's a fantastic player. He's going to win Rookie of the Year. The Mavs were 10 games out of the playoffs. So even as a teenager, it's going to be hard for Zion to carry this team, but I think there's enough talent for them to kick around and stay playoff relevant. And if they could possibly sneak in year one, that would be a monumental win.
Talking to Fletcher Mackel here on Off the Bench. And Fletch, so it is, and you know what, it is kind of weird sitting here and predicting win totals right now when the team has $30 million at least in cap space, and like there's a great free agent market coming up. We talked about Brook Lopez this morning. I've heard, like maybe like a Danny Green. You think about Nikola Mirotic potentially. Like, what do you think? Where are you kind of thinking the Pelicans are leaning with this $30 million?
I think they're leaning towards a big man because they're probably a little thin there right now. They drafted the kid Jackson Hayes out of the University of Texas, but again,
he's a project.
He's another 19-year-old who's going to have to probably put on 15 or 20 pounds before he's ready to truly bang. So he's going to play, but he's not a significant 35 minutes a night starter. So I think if you look at this team, you think Lonzo Ball's going to play the point, Drew's going to play the 2, Brandon Ingram's going to play the 3, and Zion's going to play the 4. So to me, who's in your front court besides Jahlil Okafor, who I'm kind of soft on? So I think finding somebody to let Zion play, the power forward position, or even kind of a small ball 5, like how Draymond Green plays in Golden State, I think is where you're targeting. In today's NBA, quote unquote, the term stretch big,
yeah,
is something that's prevalent. And we don't know Zion. I think his shot is going to come around, but he's not a shooter right now. So I think that's why Nikola Mirotic's name comes up, because a big who can shoot and give him space for those high-flying dunks is probably something he needs. So sure, Brook Lopez is one of those guys. Nikola Mirotic is one of those guys. There are players out there. Here's the thing, Al Horford's one of those guys. But what do those guys want? Do those guys want to come play with a 19-year-old and hope to make the playoffs? Or are they looking for something more, like does Nikola Mirotic want to go play for the Lakers with LeBron and AD with championships? So again, the Pelicans have money, and I think they're going to spend it, but I'm not sure how many 30-year-old veteran players are going to want to come and play here. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the money that they have.
Yeah, I don't know if I love Horford, given that he's about to be 37. He wants the 4-year deal. I don't know. Lopez, to me, is maybe the most intriguing because of what he represents on the defensive front as well. And his last contract was about $10 million a year. So, I mean, that seems like a great price. Fletcher Mackel at Fletcher WDSU. Fletch, I know I've been wearing you out lately, man, but thank you so much for coming on with us again this morning.
No, I appreciate it. Anytime. T-Bob Rivers, thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Yeah, you have a great day as well, my friend. And I hope that you're having an excellent day listening here on Off the Bench.